יאללה.
I'm Myrna Rubel, the middle school principal at the Epstein School, and it's my pleasure to talk a little bit about Hebrew at the Center and the proficiency method of Hebrew language and why we at Epstein chose to use it and are so happy that we are still using it. 7 years ago, we were faced with having to make the decision of what program would fit in a middle school, and we chose this method because the children had been used to, in elementary school, a prescribed text-based method. They were kind of bored and ready for something new, and I wanted to get away from a text test heavy way of teaching Hebrew. So after meeting Vardit, I loved the proficiency approach, basically for the following reasons. It implied that the teachers would have to be engaged in professional development. There would be data, actual data, that we could trace a child's progress throughout the 3 years of middle school. And there was an understanding in the proficiency approach that the middle school child or pre-adolescent has different needs with regard to second language acquisition. So for us, the process really began with buy-in, and I guess I really felt that the proficiency approach complemented understanding by design, which is the curriculum construction method that we had been using for a number of years. It made it exciting for the Judaic Studies staff to see that they also were working on objective-based learning. It tied in with UVD, and we understood that the challenge would be time, money, professional development, and also an understanding that this was not a quick process, but a slow process.
What were the results?
Well, the results are fantastic because I feel that we've raised the bar for second language learning. I am convinced we have the best program in the South, and probably more than the South, from Maryland to Florida, of second language. Our kids love Hebrew. So first and foremost, the kids love Hebrew. We don't have the problem of children saying, I hate Hebrew, I'm bad in Hebrew, I'm in the low Hebrew class, because our definitions of their placement are clearly understood, and the children know that their placement is fluid. As they learn and progress, the titles of where they are change. The other thing is, in terms of professional development, the bar has been raised. Our teachers have been committed to it. We were fortunate enough to have Liat Kadosh on our staff as a trainer, but we've remained in constant contact with Hebrew at the Center in Boston. I think the teachers are extremely proud of the units they produced, and we've been able to integrate this proficiency approach with performing arts, with Bible, and even with the teaching of Spanish in our 7th and 8th grade. For me, seeing that the Judaic Studies teachers feel that Hebrew is just as important as science, math, or English in our middle school, and by the way, our parents agree at this point. Our parents feel, once they've seen the results of their children's Hebrew, that it just raised the bar all the way around and raised the status.
So what were the challenges?
Well, the challenges really, again, are the time. We realize now we have to keep up with more units. We have to create more units. The challenge is also the technology aspect of showing the data and keeping up with the data acquisition. I don't think there are very many challenges. I think, we're 7 years down the road, so we feel kind of that we have a certain expertise, but we also feel that, at least I feel, that our teachers are just going with it. They know that this is the best way to do second language teaching, and they're very comfortable. Probably with the exception of the teaching of grammar. I think just because you are an Israeli doesn't mean that you can teach Hebrew language. So the whole process of reflection and where do I have to improve in my own language studies and teaching Hebrew grammar now is the challenge that we have. We've reached that level.
Before you told me about the data collection.
When you institute a new program, I think it takes about 5 years for a new program to become institutionalized and part of the system. And I wanted to collect data to be able to show both my administrator, the head of school, plus our parents, plus the board of directors. What does Hebrew look like using the proficiency approach? And we've collected data based on the oral OPI, oral proficiency exam, that is quite good. Our students are, we don't have anybody who is not moving along to novice mid, novice advanced, or even to intermediate high.
You told me about your visit with the students in Israel also.
For the very first time last summer, I felt comfortable asking the guides to give the hadracha, the lessons of the tour in Hebrew. And usually the tour guides tell me, no, we can't do that, the kids will miss out on a lot. And I said, well, why don't you ask them? The guides asked the children Hebrew or English, and with very few exceptions, it was Hebrew. Now, this particular guide that I'll tell you about was at Sde Boker, who started talking to the children, and then she said, I'm probably going to tell you something you don't know, and that is, or ask you, how many people or anybody here know the names of Ben Gurion's children? And our kids' hands were flying in the air, and afterwards she came over to me and said, I have never worked with a group of American children whose Hebrew was so outstanding in Kita Chet in 8th grade. So for me, that was a big plus. I also want to say I think it's very impressive to tell parents and for us to know our children are reading Hebrew novels in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And they're able to read an entire novel, not just a sheet of paper that a teacher distributes from a folder. I think that's very impressive.
Okay, thank you.